Hey everyone, just wanted to walk you through the first installment of a number of videos that we're creating to kind of help people be able to execute on different areas of EOS more capably. And so this installment is around the accountability chart and specifically how to really strengthen and make that accountability chart drive accountability across your organization. So the place that we're going to start with is actually a quote, and this is attributed to Gino. I haven't heard him say this exactly, but I've heard a lot of people say that he said it, which is the root of all evil in an organization lies in the accountability chart. And I've got to tell you, the longer I do this, the more companies I work with, the number one source of friction, the number one thing that's a culture killer, the number one thing that causes attrition and people to leave is in this accountability chart. When people do not know specifically what they're responsible for and other people are stepping on their toes and they can't assert themselves because they don't understand exactly what they're responsible for, you see it create all sorts of problems. So anytime we start to see dysfunction, the very first place that I'm always going to look is the accountability chart, and I hope you do too. So let's get into it. Before we start to get into how to create a great one, let's just make sure that we got the basics down and we're all thinking the same way. So step number one is to define the functions, the names of the seats. When we talk about functions, it's what is the name of the seat. And here we have sales and marketing and operations and finance. And when we think about these functions, we're trying to think as objectively as possible. So we're going to wipe the board clean. We're going to think, what is the best way to structure my organization to get whatever work is that we have to get done. And then we're going to start to build out what we think the key seats are going to be. So we think of functions. We're not thinking of people. We're thinking as objectively as we can, what's the best structure that we can have. Now, the second step that we have is once we actually have our structure, we want to define each one of these seats with no more than 5 bullets, 5 different what we call roles. So we're trying to keep it really basic because 5 roles is not that much, which is going to be a big part of what we're talking about here in just a second. Now, after I've defined the functions and after I've defined the roles, that's when I go to the third step, and that's when I put the right name in the seat. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying to basically get the very best player, the very best person in each of my seats to be able to deliver the best capable work that we can deliver. And when we do this, we have a tool that we call GWC, which is gets it, wants it, and capacity to do it. Anybody that works in my organization, I'm expecting that they GWC their role. They get it. They have a natural aptitude. They've got this just kind of natural nose and understanding of what this role and this work is to be able to go do. Well, if I take about natural aptitude, if I've got somebody in a finance seat, I expect that they're going to be good at math. That's a natural aptitude that they have. If they're not good at math, they probably don't get it. It's probably not the right role for them. That's just one example. So gets it is any God-given ability, natural abilities that people have, their natural aptitude. Wants it is they have a passion for the seat. They like to do this work. They look forward to doing this type of work. We want people that are excited to do what they're doing because that's where we're going to get their greatness. And then the third piece of it is the capacity to do it. We want to make sure that they have the skill sets to get the job done. So we expect and skill sets are the skills that they pick up along the way. If gets it is aptitude, they're kind of born with some skills or abilities. Capacity is the skills that they've learned through training and through working on it and experience to really build those skills that they can do that job very capably. We expect every single person to GWC their seats. Okay, define the function, define the roles, then we put the names in the seat. Now what often occurs is as we kind of think about each of the different seats, we start to say, okay, for my marketing seat, they're responsible for a lot of things. They got to do logo and design, they got to do website. And we start to think about all the different areas of responsibility. They got to be there. All the press stuff's going to go through them. All the photography is going to go through them. So we start to put in their different domains, and then they got to do lead nurturing. So we'll put in the tasks and things that they got to do too. And we start to add to that list. And this is a normal way when I'm trying to define a seat. I start to think about everything that goes into that seat. The problem that starts to happen is that when I do this, I'm not at 5 bullets. It's not uncommon. I got more than 20 bullets now defining the seat. This seat's responsible for a lot of stuff. And the higher up in the organization, the more stuff is in there. So this starts to become a bigger issue. How do I take all of this and how do we make this 5 bullets? Marketing is truly responsible for all of this. Are we going to just give each one of these big category names that kind of work out in a meaningless way? Well, that's not going to be great for us either. Well, this creates other problems too, because if I now have a job that has 20 different bullets, this one's showing 17 bullets, and if I need to have one metric for every one of these different bullets, then just for this one seat, I've got 17 different metrics. And if I have 5 people reporting to me and they all have 17 metrics, my scorecard is going to be like 85 metrics. It's going to be completely unruly. This is a problem. And it's a lot of work, because the other thing too is when I look at all this and go, gosh, this seat is responsible for all of these things. There is so much work that has to be done. There's so much work that we're gonna have to hire like 50 people to get all this work done. Maybe not 50, but the point to it is that there's a lot of work here. And so when we come into this situation where we're overwhelmed with all these different bullets, this is where we go, great, we've understand all the domains and areas of responsibility, but now I got to hit a pause and a reset and say to myself, what is marketing's role? And it's a very different question than what is marketing responsible for? What is marketing's role in my organization? And this is where we can kind of hit a reset. So for instance, I might say marketing's role is the leadership, management, and accountability of everything marketing. Okay, LMA, that's an EOS tool. And if you're not familiar with it, that's the subject of a different video. But on the left side, it doesn't say that they're responsible just to create leads. We've got inbound leads, and they may get leads from the website, or they might get them from the PR efforts, or they may get it from lead nurturing efforts or from advertising. But ultimately, however they go do it, marketing is responsible to create leads. So the idea here on the right, my role is their job is to create leads. The stuff on the left, that long list I created, this is just the mechanisms and areas that they can use to get that job done. The domains and tasks I don't need to have on my list. On my accountability chart, I need to know what marketing is responsible for. So I can say to Jen, your job is to create leads. How you go do it, that is, I'm going to leave that up to you. We got budgets we got to pay attention to, but you've got to go figure out how to create the leads for us. Number 2, you got to maximize brand power. You may do that with the website. You may do that with video and photography. You may do that with a lot of different mechanisms, but your job is to maximize that brand power. And what we're doing in the process of doing this is we're resetting, here's what I'm going to be looking for you to own. And we're separating that from, here's the way you're going to go do it. The ways you're going to go do it, that is your business, but here's what I'm expecting of you. These are what we want from those roles when we think about that. Now, the beauty of it is that when I have clarity on these roles, your job is to create leads or maximize brand power. Now, when I want to create kind of the metrics, the scorecard that says, okay, are we doing a good or bad job? This becomes a lot easier. It's not like 17, 20 different metrics anymore. Now it's like 5, because I've got clarity on what this person is responsible for. And oh, by the way, not for nothing, when I have a clarity on what this person is responsible for, the numbers of hires that I need becomes a lot different, because now I'm thinking about functionally, what are they trying to get done? Not just like all the work that has to get done, or maybe it doesn't have to get done, but all the work and domains that they're responsible for. And once we do it on the executive level, we're going to do that. We're going to move that down layer by layer by layer to make sure that we're doing this at all areas of the organization. We want every single seat to have a clear function with 5 bullets talking about what they are responsible for, so that we can ask the question, who's responsible for that? Let me go get the answer from them. Now, just a kind of couple additional thoughts as we really start to make this move into action. There's a couple of things that I see as red flags when I'm looking at accountability charts. That's a sign that we don't have it right. So the first one, the most obvious one, is when I see too many roles. So I see the name of the seat, and then I see, I don't know, it could be 8 bullets, 10 bullets, 12 bullets. And when you see that, the thing that this tells you is that person understands what work they have to get done, but they don't necessarily understand the why behind it. They're aware that they got to do the advertising and the lead nurturing, but they don't necessarily realize that their job is to create leads. And when we see that type of situation, it prevents them from being able to apply their full creative self into their role, because they're trying to run a lead nurturing program, not trying to create leads. If I tell somebody your job is photography, they're going to try to basically do whatever the photography requires. But if I say your job is to differentiate brand with rich content, it allows them to bring a lot more of their creative self, coming up with new ideas, best practices, and ways to do this job better to me. And so again, if I see too many roles, it's a sign that the person understands their workload. They don't understand the why behind it, and they're not going to be able to bring their greatest self to the organization until they understand that. The second place that I'll say when I look at accountability charts that I realize that we have some problems is when I see a role with a lot of words. And so the example I use here, generate press by engaging analysts and creating captivating content. Okay, we're trying to define not only what we want them to do, but how they're going to go do it in that situation. A lot of times, a lot of words as we're trying to define how we want them to do it. Stop. If their job is to maximize press coverage, that's all we need to have. 3 words to talk about what we want them to go do. How they do it, they want to engage analysts, they want to create captivating content, or do it other 100 different ways. That's on them, because the way I'm going to measure their success or failure is whether they're truly getting a lot of press coverage or not. So 2 things I would pay a lot of attention to. 1, the number of bullets on any particular seat, and 2, the length of each of those bullets. Are we using too many words? And ultimately, this is where we want to build accountability back into our organization. We want every single person feeling accountable and owning it. And so like when that person comes to you and says, hey, I'm really struggling, how do I get more leads? Don't give them the answer. I want you to be able to say, you tell me, this is your domain. You're my person in charge of creating leads. How can I help you? How can I help you get those answers? I don't want to give you the answers. I want you to be the expert, not me. And do not do their work for them. Put it back on them. And there is a phenomenal article. It's actually the 2nd most distributed article by Harvard Business Review. It's written in 1972, I think it says, or 1974 here. Management Time, Who's Got the Monkey? So they got the link here, but this is the name of the article. I highly recommend you read it. It is like a 20-minute read, but it really illustrates this mistake that managers make when they're trying to enable their people by doing their work for them. Don't do it. Make sure people understand what they're responsible for. That's the accountability chart. And then look to them to own their areas and domains. So if we do this right, we're going to build really good accountability charts. And from that, we're going to be able to build really effective scorecards. And that's the next video that we've got. And I really encourage you to watch this one soon afterwards, because it's the same type of thing on the scorecard as the accountability chart. When I see a scorecard with 80 metrics, man, that is a sign that they do not have command of their data. When I see a scorecard that's nice and tight, it shows that they got a command of the business. So that's what we're going to be talking about next. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. It's just rick@outpaceenterprises.com. You got my email down there if I didn't say that clear enough, but appreciate your time and look forward to hearing about your success. Thanks, everybody.